Oh, right, there we go. So, Brandon, welcome to your second Cinema Life and Everything. Before we get going, though, I'm just going to apologise because the last one, if the listeners or viewers, there was some serious technical issues on my part with the microphone. So we have I'm not going to touch it, but there is a whole new microphone here now as well, so it shouldn't be an issue. So apologies for the last one, but it's still really worth listening to. And today, as by way of an apology, but also because I loved the last conversation so much, I've brought you back on to have another chat about cinema and stuff.
No, I am absolutely honored, and like I said, it's so fun to talk with you about movies and other worldly things that we can about it. So thank you again for having me.
No, brilliant. So I was going to say, before we get on, it's a little bit different today. We're not talking about three films. We're just going to sort of focus on one avenue. But just in case people haven't listened to you before, actually, you're my first two-time guest, so go for it. Would you like to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, and then we can start from now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm originally from Chicago, which is my home city, and I always talk about it proudly because it's one of my favorite cities in the world. But I have been living in London on and off for the last 6 years. I've studied at two different drama schools, the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, and then the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts. One was a BA certificate, and then I got my MFA through Lambda through the COVID pandemic, which we can never ignore through these hard times. And yeah, I'm just a huge movie buff, TV buff, and occasionally stage buff. I have gone to about like 10 different stage shows in the last 2 weeks.
Amazing.
All the way from Liverpool down to different parts of boroughs of London. So very dedicated for the arts in all its facets and medias and mediums.
That's wow, that is very, very eclectic. You've got a huge sort of influx of information coming in there and inspiration as well. So that's amazing. And talking about an influx of information and lots of different sort of references and things being culminated in one film pretty much at the turn of a millennium, today we are going to discuss
Dun, 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 The Matrix.
The Matrix. So yeah, a deep dive into The Matrix and its influence on cinema, its influence on popular culture, its influence on fashion and music, and pretty much everything. Thank you for suggesting this because I got a chance to watch it again the other day and absolutely adored it again. So where would you like to start? Where did you first see it? What was its influence on you? How did you feel about it and stuff? And then I can sort of like chime in a little bit as well.
Well, I can definitely say it starts with my parents' influence of being a movie buff, because they were the ones that, of course, couldn't let me see this as a child, and I didn't really get to see this properly until after probably like 11, 12 years old. And if it came out in 98, I was way too young at the age of 6. So I think it was only after like a rental movie, or, they must have owned it as a VHS, which again, a lot of people probably don't know what that is in this generation.
But they should.
But they should. And it probably might come back. You never know. We'll see. So. But yeah, through that eclectic time of the old time VHS rentals and or owning VHS tapes and such, I know I probably watched it then, but I wasn't allowed to obviously see all the gross bits or anything like that. But thanks to them sort of being open-minded, and my father probably having a philosophical degree, philosophical way of life, and a philosophy degree from the University of Chicago, it's just kind of like, yeah, that probably implemented into it too, that sort of respect and love for it. But yeah, the influence of it really connected more as I grew up, aside from all the super chaotic music, violence, and whatnot. I think the points that really stand for me now are seriously the way that they took Western, Eastern philosophies and then took supernatural sci-fi comic book style of filmmaking into live action instead of just like a two-dimensional booklet. And the fact that you can have different influences, that they, like you said, they use different sort of like, they connect from an animation for the high flying sort of thing. Then they use like proper actual like kung fu and jujitsu and
Mm.
other mixed martial arts and stuff to actually do fight scenes. And then you have all the different kinds of like, okay, high action gun scenes and explosives and car crashes and helicopters and whatnot. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is how much the relevance of freeing yourself of today's socioeconomic standards
Mm.
actually means a lot more, especially with technology growing and rising as it is. And I know that you have a personal sort of connection with
Yeah.
AI thing. So I thought this would be a really good, point of conversation with you, because not only are you an actor in the arts and respect for movies and films, but you're also like ambition to sort of understand what is AI, what is technology really, and that also kind of challenges us as a society with religious and or
Mm.
Eastern Western philosophies of life. So if you can make sense of that, listeners, this is really going to be for you.
No, to be honest, it's one of those. What I loved about it, when you have, because I love independent cinema, I love blockbusters. Like you, I like theatre, I like books, whatever. Wherever I can get that creative juice, so to speak, or those moments of inspiration where you can just be in the moment, that's wonderful for me. And this was one of those rare films where it didn't belabor the point. If you just wanted to go and see bullet time, if you just wanted to go and see a cool kick-ass film, you could. But then if you wanted to delve a little bit deeper, and you talked about VHS, I always remember this was one of the ones I got the special edition on DVD, and the amount of detail they went into in the special features where they were talking about, and I'm very big, right? Anybody can, like, this film borrows from a lot, from, like you say, East and Western philosophy, John Woo's Simulacra, puppets, and there's a lot of Metropolis. I'm just going to say words, but it borrows from a lot. But one thing that I would always give the Wachowskis, they always named their references, which is very, very, very important to me. So when you went on to the special edition or listen to the special features, suddenly it gave you all of these jumping off points, and more than just a film that I remember when the final credits rolled, I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was concussed. It was one of the 3 or 4 films that's done that to me. When I got to watch the DVD, suddenly there was all these other points of references that I could go and research, and it just become a real milestone in cinema and in my sort of ability to go and not we're living in a matrix, or if you want to believe that you can, but more the ability to question, to critically think, to just be able to discuss with people like you what is the universe we're living in, what are the questions we are asking, and what are the answers that we're receiving.
Exactly. And then you can even add in the point of us as individuals. Are we actually discovering our true potential when we
Mm.
go to school, when we get up in the mornings, when we, meet people and go to work? It actually it threw in everything about, if you actually try to define real, how do you define it? Right? It's just one of those greatest questions that is
Oh, I
just
love this
censoring
conversation.
questions, right? Is it just the things that you touch, right? That was a great example. Lawrence Fishburne nailed. I mean, let alone as much as we can go into the ethereal and also the practicality and the sociology and whatnot of the writing. Let's just talk about also the acting
Oh,
was on par. Nobody
yes.
gave a bad performance, no matter how many people love and hate Keanu Reeves or love and hate, different kind of actors in those time. Everyone brought a game. Everyone brought reality. Not maybe more than reality. We gotta choose a choice words here of reality. But but you have to say the deliverance and the even the villain roles of the agent. You
Mr.
can't like that.
Anderson.
For me, was actually, I think, because for me, I come of that era where like Matrix was just after Star Wars, but then Lord of the
Mm.
Rings was coming along, and of course
Oh,
some of these
yeah.
actors, so for me, Hugo Weaving, along with Lawrence Fishburne and Carrie Ann Moss, while Joe Pantoliano had been around prior to them, I think for me, especially with Memento, not too
Oh.
long after that, but he also worked with the Wachowskis. Wachowskis or Wachowskis? I always get confused with their names.
I've always said Wachowskis, but
Yeah, I know my Polish roots should connect me to like.
Could be Wachowskis actually, to
I
be
think
honest with you.
Wachowskis, yeah, they had worked with Joe on Bound, because also like you, I was trying to
Mate,
do research on seriously how they actually not only thought about the script, how they got connected with producers, and how they were under the radar at Burbank filming, but then when they were doing the sequels, it became much more of a big step. But again, sorry, going a little bit full circle.
no,
Yeah, acting, it's truly something you have to nod and go. Lawrence Fishburne stepped up as one of this is the most pinnacle roles that almost like Moliere and Block characters, you would go, everyone will know if you answer a question of red pill, blue pill, answer what is reality, what is, you know what I mean? You are the one. These are quotes that depict a Block character that will always be forever known as Morpheus. And then the same goes for Mr. Anderson. You know what I mean?
Anderson.
Hugo Weaving. I mean, what a phenom jump that is of his acting quality, because he didn't even have to do multi-layered versions of it. He just had to literally bring what seemed like a very subtle Hal Penton, smooth talking agents. These little lilts, which made it very interesting, and that's really great vocal work. And also because he's Australian, that's not his natural accent. But then he did bring a little bit of layer technically, because when he's confronting Morpheus in the interrogation, he finally brings
the thing about being the virus, yeah.
Which ironic that if we then want to go into labeling and labeling things, people when they usually shout labels actually speak more from themselves than they do to you. So whenever someone calls you like a C word, F word, that's actually resonates. So for him to be a virus actually is ironic. He thinks other people are virus when in fact it's exactly what he is.
Yes.
So I love those kind of twists of words and twists of everything. But sorry, I can take it on different.
No, I think you're exactly right. Going back to your first point, I do get a little bit annoyed when people sort of go into Keanu a little bit. I think he's great at what he does. Nobody gets to that level by accident, even if they are a tremendous guy, because there was originally meant to be Will Smith in the Neo role, I remember, and would have been a completely different sort of film. But I just think Keanu is perfect in that. He's very good. I think Keanu is always very good when he's in those vehicles. I mean, now he's aged a bit. He works with John Wick being the sort of world weary guy. But back then, if you could put Keanu in a role on the hero's journey where he's learning about the world at the same time as the audience and having that sort of almost childlike wonder, I always thought he worked really, really well. And like you say, he brings his A game in that. The bit when he chooses not, and it's still giving me goosebumps to this day, even though I've watched it years and years ago, the bit at the very end when he chooses not to run from the agents is just absolutely his determination, his face, he brings it. And when you look at that on a big cinema screen or a home video or whatever, you feel it. And if you're feeling it, they are doing something right with their acting. So yeah, I think from beginning to end, and Carrie-Anne Moss is absolutely phenomenal in it. And you're not just bringing incredible acting chops. All of these people had to completely physically re-evaluate themselves. You watched the training they went through where Wu Ping didn't really want to do it. He just asked for a ridiculous amount of money and said, okay, they all need to train with me for 6 months, thinking that the Wachowskis would go, oh, we'll have to go with someone else. But they went, no, okay. And all of those actors speak about how much it gave them this newfound respect for what they could do with their bodies as well. So there was almost within the film itself, these actors learning about a power within themselves as well, and how they could conduct themselves physically and emotionally on screen as well.
Yeah, but that's the aspect where I take again that film and go, but right, there was inspiration, right? Even if you didn't watch all those documentaries about it, I mean, you can still take away, like you say, the aspect of there's a power to your body as well as your mind to find freedom. And I think more and more, the reason we see the news as we see it today, it's more of like we're playing a bad game in a system that doesn't allow freedom of any individual. It's literally mocking justice and freedom. It's mocking us, and in some ways, if we're going to get a little bit more political regarding that. But I still stand by the fact that this movie, as again, there are some very sci-fi elements that are, a little gross or a little scary that I think, but I think the way we as a society are allowed to see videos on YouTube and TikTok and other social media platforms that really don't blur out or for any age now, even though they pretend to be like, are you over the age of 16, 18? It's like, it's a joke. That's all a joke. You can, of course, access it at any point. And kids are getting phones like this, better phones than you, me, or anybody. Like, I've seen kids with wider phones, like out to here.
Yes.
I have seen 6-year-olds with iPads this size.
I could show you a video of a 4-year-old going like this on a book and getting upset because the picture wouldn't get bigger, and they couldn't work out why. Because they thought it was like a tablet. It was very, 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 very strange. Yeah, and to be honest with you as well, there's something very enticing. I remember back in the day, we're going to take it back to VHS cassettes when it said 18 certificate, 15 certificate. I'm 12. Of course I want to watch the 18 certificate because it's things I shouldn't see. But unfortunately, back in the day when that was probably like The Thing or The Shining, where as much as it probably ruined me a little bit, at least I could console myself, it was special effects. These days you're seeing actual murder, you are seeing, and that is going to take from a young child's perception growing up too quickly and stuff. It's a scary time. It's almost we can talk about the restriction of information, or how the Matrix was speaking about how you're only shown one true universe. I would say, or one altered universe. I would say almost now it's too much information, gluttonous amounts of information, where we're not that getting that balance of not being spoken to or dictated to, not being allowed to critically think, but also at the same time being able to understand that you're getting the correct information for the time that you need it, and not just being overwhelmed by all of this sensory overload where there is nothing real good points being made. It's just mental McDonald's. That's mine, by the way. I got that one a year ago.
That's copyrighted, folks. That's copyrighted. But you're absolutely right. No, but every example of that is absolutely there, and then even the jokesters that want to go, why are the birds freezing? Why is there a plane freezing? They're bringing in the references of a Matrix, or is this world really real? Most people even talk about how whether it's sexism or a sort of, there's another ism that is an issue to their processing of like, well, this is why I'm going to hate this world, or why I hate men, why I hate women, why I hate the libs and the rebs and the other political agents, right? Everyone pretends that they can just go, oh, this system needs a restart, or it's an overload, or but what are they going to do?
What's exactly.
And we don't have Avengers or heroes or a way to be like, no, I got to find a Morpheus or somebody to tell me what is the system, what is the answer, what is the choice. It's like the choices are before us, and that's the thing, is like he says it, I can't open the door for you, I can only show you the path, you have to go through it. Right, and that's so my father, and any other.
No, I'm sorry, I've got to jump in here quickly, but there's something else I have to go back to later on. I've written it down, but we'll go back to it. But about mentors now. When you meet, like you say, you meet your father. For me, it was martial arts, meeting a sensei, then meeting coaches throughout my career, a weightlifting coach, an acting coach, whatever. But you meet these people. Now, they have distilled information and it's passed through them, and then they give it to you. But there is that point with all teachers where you should do, as a good teacher, they should say to you, this is what I believe to be true, but seek outside me at the same time. And at some point you will become your own teacher or need to seek out another teacher. It's only these ones that go, it's only my way. You can only answer this. You can only follow this one particular way of thinking. And it's going through those doors where you get to the next door and the next door and ultimately realize there is no end to it. You keep learning, you keep stepping through the door. At the moment, I believe, where the internet becoming the door, too many doors. Where do you start? Paralysis by analysis. Too many ways to follow. Oh, you're doing this way of bodybuilding. There's 500 other ways of bodybuilding. TikTok, 15 seconds. Boom, boom, boom. Too many ideas. Nothing's allowed to percolate.
And it's kind of sad, those egotistical sort of mindsets that want control. Whether you see it on the news of a political party, you see it from actual coaches and teachers. I've had so many teachers from drama school that were like that.
100%.
My way or the highway. And it's funny because even so, you know, depending on the side, right? Like you could even take the character like Switch. You know, she said, "Hey, Copper Top, we don't have 20 questions. It's either my way or the highway." And he was ready to take the highway, and it took Trinity to be like, "No, you know that if you go that way, you're never gonna find your path. Just find that trust." You know, and it's like, see, if I had given up on acting after that teacher was like that, my way or the highway, I could have walked away and never come back. But here I did come back after Central. I did come back to continue training, right, especially from New York to Florida to Chicago to LA. I did so many different teachers, you know what I mean? And I wholeheartedly agree with what your advice is no matter what sort of mentor, the good ones will go. There is a way of learning and teaching, but don't just take mine to be everything. You have to still discover you to then become your own sort of warrior, actor, person that you are. Where is that? Right. How do we now find the exact path to that? It's literally stumped me for the last decade on how is it to become a successful actor. And I can tell you, every person, whether it's acting or other field, is going to be exactly in our boat going, I don't know where to start. I've heard it from people in conversation. I know from these mixers that we even met at, people said the same thing. We don't know how to start because it's overwhelming, right? Is it this city, that continent,
yes,
that place, this person? No, it's and it should be like you're taught, though, the opposite of follow rules. You have to do A plus B equals C, E, X, whatever, right? That's the mathematical equation. Life is built on a math equation, right? One A to B is the straight line. You'll follow it, right? You'll follow that, right? That's the system we live in. If that's not the Matrix lying to us.
Completely. And the thing is as well, this idea, I mean, this is just a personal belief, but when you do meet those teachers and they only have that one way of thinking, or like, it has to, and it's just the one that's come off my head, Stanislavski. You must do it. If you do not do this, it will not come out onto screen. Well, if you have the top 50 actors and they all follow exactly the same method, then it's going to become very, very samey. The thing that I have learned is it all comes in the variety. And even if you followed exactly the same teaching down to the word, your interpretation for your life experience is always going to turn it slightly to how it appears. So I think this fear that some teachers have that they're not exactly being followed to a degree, I don't know if it says something more about the teacher and their life and how they've been brought up rather than the student. This fear of maybe control or losing control, but ultimately for me, the joy of life is understanding that we are there. The Matrix, the machines want to enforce control, but ultimately we are out of control. Like this sense that, oh, like you say, A plus B equals C, but it might not. It might equal Z or Z. We don't know. It's going through life and finding those happy accidents that give the life its joy, its experience.
Right. And I think finding individuality like you are the one it spoke bounds, right? He's beginning to believe. If you don't believe in yourself, right, when he confronts the agent for the first time, right, that was that cutaway especially is like, what is he doing? He's beginning to believe, and he did. And you know what, it did hurt. It did take several tries in that fight. That wasn't a one done. That wasn't just, he called a team of Avengers. You know what I mean? That's the thing. The difference between, I think, comic book heroes, even all anime heroes. Sometimes they get they have a sort of like, but there could be a restart. There could be a duel or to this. And it's like, no, when you're near death, you have maybe barely a chance to survive. And in that fight, as we can define reality to non-reality, obviously, to it, because there's no way they could fly and do bullet time at the same time. But it's still a super cool. That was a super cool effect. But it's still like the challenges of life are going to have sort of those questions and sort of those things. It's like you are going to have to like sort of run to find your answers. You're going to have to fight, sometimes literally, like not like figuratively, but it feels like you're fighting people to get your path going, because so many people want to derail you because, and we could go into, right, the psychological is they have bad upbringing, they have the power, they have, a goal to see only their success and only that, and if no one else follows it, then right, you're either with me or against me. But that's
this want to shut it down. I've made my path, but I don't want anyone following me, because this idea that success is limited or finite, so it's my success and only I can have it. And you meet people and they won't tell you where they've studied or what they've done because it's all mine. And it's like the most. I'm going to get a bit spiritual and woo, but we're talking about the Matrix now. So for me, it's like, I was reading a book this morning actually, and it comes to a point where, first of all, because I've only just read it this morning, I don't remember it exactly, but it starts off as a thought, but it can't be enough to be a thought. So then you have to harvest it in your heart, and then it grows in your heart. So then it goes into your whole body. But then there's a point when this inspiration has traveled through your body, you've learned it, you've adapted to it, but then you have to allow it to pass on to somebody else, because otherwise it stagnates. And that really I've not done that well. I've sort of paraphrased it a bit, but the idea of when this spirit or whatever, this point of inspiration passes through you, it's never truly yours. So you have to be in that point of gratitude and point of giving to give it to other people, because then it circulates. We're all traveling in this sort of like world where we can freely give to each other, and if we all freely give to each other, then it all flows a lot smoother, as opposed to like, I have to grab, I have to control, I have to contain, which will never truly be mine anyway. And it just leads to a lot of pain and suffering.
Which we can again reference to any day of the year of last 10, there's not a year or day I think there hasn't been a conflict since 100%. Before I was born, since before you were born, before, and especially today. I mean, today happens to be December 16th, 2023. It's supposed to be merriest time of the year, but yet what an illusion for many, many people. And it does, and that's the thing that I think people have to question, especially after watching this film too. You can literally watch this film and go, why is it everyone who thinks that their job or their religion or their action it has to be that way and no other?
Yes.
Right. And if you get to a certain age, you just can never break. You know what I mean? And I think that's another reference too, right? A mind cannot get free after a certain point.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? If they let someone out too late, the mind can't cope, and it can be very dangerous and or deadly. And I mean, we have proof to this day. I think we can see plenty of people from all over the world with situations that they just make harder and deadlier, and the conflict isn't going down. It's just getting built up and new layers upon layers, and I mean, it's just sad that every conflict and war that isn't even close to our homes right now, it's still fine. It filtrates from media to the families to other groups who are going to sympathize on both sides of the conflict. That's why I don't personally care to donate or put myself to any side anymore, because if they're not going to realize that they're all one, why should I pick a side?
And to that point as well, I completely agree. But everything has become like it's almost feeding back on ourselves. That whereas everything, there's so many points of reference. Also, things are becoming so reductive, left or right, light or dark, conservative or Republican. There's no nuance. It's either you're against me or you're for me, and that's the only things. So it's forcing everything into conflict, and that is a very scary point of being. It's like we talk, right, so that we go back to the Matrix quickly, this idea and what you've already just mentioned as well of sleepwalking through life. And you do see people in their lives, they never question anything anymore. They get out of a box, which is a house. They get in a box, which is in a car. They go to a box, which is a job. They get back in a box. They maybe go training for a little while in a box. They watch a box, and eventually you get put in a box. And it's just all of these, and you are just boxed off, all of these things, one after the other. And this is how you are. You are Phil, you are husband Phil, you are worker Phil, you are maybe weight training Phil, boom, 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 boom. But you are never questioning these avatars of yourself. You are just this and this alone. And I find that terrifying. And also this ability now, or this way of being, where it's like, if me and you have a conversation, you might say something I disagree with, and I'm just leading with emotion, and we can't debate it anymore. We can't go, why do you think that? Or better still, not say anything and just listen. It has to be me against you. You like Marvel, I hate you for liking Marvel. Why do I hate you? I don't know Marvel. I don't know Marvel. We need to be able to discuss these things, because it's through the debate we ultimately learn everything. And it's the scary thing is, like, people aren't debating, they're just angry with each other. They're just in battling each other.
Yeah, but it depicted that too in like the early part of this the movie after the nightclub scene.
Yes.
Right, Mr. Warthoffer, the boss, said, I mean, again, such smart dialogue. That alone, that one scene with his boss, clearly
Yes.
defined, if you think you're above the rules of this, then you need to find another job. And I make myself clear. And it's like, see, that's why these people lived in a boxed off life. They won't question it, because it's out of fear. It's out of disorientation about, right, if you don't have a job, then how am I going to help? And they especially encourage,
who am I without my job?
Who am I with that? But then they encourage, what about your families? What about those that, and it's like, ooh, the manipulation is so scary. But yet, right, I think it takes right action, right discipline, right communication. But then when I say right, I don't mean, everybody has to be right in order to speak to each other, because again, right and wrong is just another label that everyone's going to use as fodder to go, like, are you worthy? Are you worthy? Are you not worthy? What do you think I mean, I even saw two drunks the other night just getting into an argument because one of them didn't like the idea that you thought I was an employee of the train. And it's like, these are grown men.
Yeah. Oh, don't.
30. And I get they've been drinking, but a guy just going, hi, I'm lost. I don't know how to get to Three Bridges. And the other guy goes, does it look like I work here?
Yes.
I laugh because I'm just like, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
And I almost feel it's like they haven't had that layering. So when you are self-critical, or when you've like sought out knowledge and critical thinking, it's almost like a tree with rings, right? So if me and you have a conversation, and we'll get stuck on a certain ring of experience with each other, and that's where debate happens. Whereas when you meet people and they're just so quick to anger or so quick to offend, it's like they've had the childlike learning, the middle ring, and then suddenly they've jumped, like you say, to their 30, and they've got no point of reference. So it's like, you think that, wow, I'm going to have a tantrum, I'm going to punch you, or I'm going to lash out, because there's no other point of discipline. There's no other point. It's just you've gone from here to here and never questioned any of it.
And that's the funny thing, because they know this. And by they, I do mean a good silent majority, not minority. It's a majority. There is a plethora of governments and people who, whether they've had this ring to that ring, which I love those references, by the way, I like that, they are abusing us to never become knowledgeable. They don't want us to talk about this. They really don't. And yet there are courses you can do. You could take movie. You might develop this through life. A family member happened to be a philosopher or found literature to be sort of moving, right? There is ways to get to this point from all over the world, but we don't unify on that. We try. There are those who are trying. And I mean, we can't forget that positivity is a sort of ring that seems as like delicate as religion, right? People's beliefs of positivity on themselves is so far-fetched, so hard to sort of bring full circle, that also adds to this onslaught of nightmarish terror and ongoing angst and angst. But I do agree with the fact that we are like the battery example that he does as well, Matthias, that we are becoming, I hate to say it, but like Energizer bunny slaves. I know people might get funny with those words, but the slave bit. But again, you know what I mean? Living in a non-PC,
the mindless sort of zombie thing.
But I wouldn't have to say that warning if that wasn't also one of those things where it doesn't matter if you're left or right. People are now becoming hypersensitively censored, but yet the internet is not censored. Isn't this ironic too, that we can not only go about education, the blocking of education because it's not affordable or you have much conflict to deal with it, you know, right? People are kept poor in slums in different parts of the world, or they are too poor in the States or here because I can't afford that for my family. How are they going to survive? How are they going to live the next day if they can't go to education because they have to work to help the family? See, again, it's going back to this manipulation circle.
But the thing is, as well, for me, everyone always thought it was everyone. Sorry, I'm doing big time. Sorry. So the belief was it was always going to be like 1984, you know, which is referenced a little bit in the Matrix about like everything being censored and restricted and non-speak. And it's not. It's the other one. It's Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, where everything is available, but you're so laconic and so just overwhelmed. You choose not to seek any of it out. You just want the amnesia. You just want to be like, basically, I've forgotten Joe Paliantano's character, but just put me back in. I don't want to know. I just want the laconic stupidity.
Ignorance is bliss.
There we go.
Ignorance is bliss. That is exactly what we are fed. In fact, I have been fed on it too long because I've allowed myself to get stumped with where is on my path? How do I find my path? Who is the one to find my path? That situation then adds on to work. Work. But in
where is your value? Where that's the other one as well. You're being an actor, but what are you doing? What is your worth? What have you done recently? Prove something to me. Prove something to society. And it's hard because it's such a hard thing with creatives because you can't always put a monetary value to it. It's a work in progress. Not everything has to be just valued through commerce, which is how society is so driven now. How many likes do you have? How many followers do you have? What is your number value? How much do you earn? Very scary.
And even to that point, it's why in a couple of days I'm back to the States because I'm not allowed to get my acting degree a job that can actually provide these numbers that they say I have to earn in order to stay in this country. Even now, love doesn't even apply to it, which is ironic because in The Matrix, that also the movie itself, love did matter. Love does matter.
That scene makes me cry.
And even that now is restricted.
Yes.
Nobody can marry out of love and be with their partner. You have to qualify by numbers to prove why you're worth being here. So now it's the rich. It's about if you don't have money, you're no longer one of us. You
and
can't
the insidious nature of that, how that has sort of been ferried in, that, like you say, that a relationship isn't enough anymore. The ephemerality of love or creativity or art isn't enough. Where is the commercial value? And in a way, that's sort of getting back to the Matrix as well, that the film itself made a tremendous amount of money, but it wasn't people just seeing it as an event movie. I would argue that it was one of those perfect cataclysms of art, but also, of like, it was an event movie, but at the same time, it spoke to so many people. And literally, like the last song of the film does, did make people wake up, and that is the trueness of all art, and why we're having this conversation today. The ability to question yourself, question society, question others, and not be scared of retribution, to be able to seek these answers and understand more about the world in which you live.
I mean, can we get any deeper than this? But I think everyone's gonna need a breath of water and some. I know I am, but exactly, and it's without trying to find too much judgment, because I've found also that this new value system has also had to take some learning from other sources, which we've mentioned, that a good teacher, or individuals who do expand their horizon. You can't just always be a block of oh, I'm wooden because I work at Starbucks and I don't do anything else. It's like, no, but the occasional love for music, or the occasional striving to do dance or theater, and these are important, and again, that positive reinforcement doesn't come through. But again, the reason that this movie also spoke volumes to like build up better relationships for me with my father is because he took an aspect of nonviolent communication from Marshall Rosenberg, who RIP, but his 9-hour YouTube series also brings in that value system about finding the usage of our words, especially to denote how our wants and needs are as important in everyone, but you have to communicate that in a positive way. So therefore, if you take out the labels and the adjectives, it's be like, I kind of want to do this, or I hope you understand, like I would like that, but no, it's like, I want that. And my way about going about it is this, and I don't have to go, it's your fault or it's my fault, this is shit, that is shit, you are shit, I am shit. Take out all of that too, then you're gonna go, wow, that is almost a la like Morpheus and Neo being bold and saying, I know what I have to do. I want to save Morpheus, or I want to be the one. You know what I mean? I'm going to. We're going to make it, right? Like even telling Trinity, like, no one's done this, when she's afraid, like, no one's done this before. That's why it's going to work.
There is power in momentum, like you say. We can go to the positivity route, but also not going wishy-washy. This, to quote another film from the Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi, you can karate to yes, you can karate to no, but if you karate to maybe, squish just like grape. And for me, that is you have to commit. Like, if you are going to commit to something in life, you have to commit to it. And there is power in words. There are power in I will, I can. Even if you don't completely get to where you expected to, having the ability to say that you will means so much. Having the strength of will to do it. But the one thing that always leapt out of me, going back to it quickly, because we have to go back, well, we mentioned it early on, the idea of, so the Wachowskis went through their changes themselves as humans, and there's something that really resonated me, that the characters of the Matrix jump into bodies, they jump into avatars, they jumped into how they're viewed into the world, and later on in later films they wear different skins and stuff as well, so it goes into other things. But the idea of they're almost, this is always something that's really stuck with me, the idea of these things are jumping into bodies, creativity, and Neo and the humans, Zionists, actually understand the purity of their fault and wanting to make a change for the better. And the machines, Agent Smith, not wanting to destroy the humans, but at the same time also greedy for a body as well. That commercial thing. And by the time you get to the third film, that it's just trying to absorb as many people as possible. Everybody's becoming uniform. Everybody's just becoming another Agent Smith. And that always resonated big with me from the first one to the last one, that this value of self-choice, self-belief, self-worth, how you choose to push yourself out into this world and gender and gender identity being such a big thing now as well. And I believe it is so valued not to be uniform, to trust in yourself and linking your spirit to the body and understanding the value of both, and love, of course, as well.
Right. And I think a lot of people are missing so many pieces and links, not only for themselves in their personal journey and overcoming adversity or, verbal and physical harm, because we've all grown up with it. There's always been a sort of, not just at home, but especially from the outside world, because the outside world has used fear and then manipulated fear into communicating it as, oh, it can be, you can use it as a physical tool, and then that tool can be used as a tool for good and evil. And then we just think, oh, right, so it's just this choice and that choice, and right, if it's not with the law, then you're always going to be a criminal. And if it's with the law, then you'll always be on the righteous and then the right. But yet we don't develop how the uniqueness of law to people actually could overcome more than just, if it's not law, then it's wrong. And then perception to find people as a unity, right, then gives that people that fear, like it's, the Agent Smith taking over the whole world, right?
Yeah.
Some people can't handle the idea of, well, but that's just the West taking over the East. But then the people think the East wants to take over the West, right? And that's the blander version of the fears, especially of Americans who are, of low income, middle America, who, side with somebody that looks like a golden calf rather than actual good deity. Which, funny enough, that book that the Wachowskis and I think you've read about, right, like a digital deity that would take over and then play the concept of God, which again, I only got to see a couple clips from Keanu Reeves talking about it, but that alone already says a lot about how our system of technology for Apple or, right, Androids and all that may come to effect. In fact, more people do wonder, right, is this the way humanity will change, as if machines take over or take control? But again, if the skewed system of being unity can be skewed, yet there's a positive to it, just like justice to injustice, why does a machine have to really be in control of us when we made them?
Yes, completely.
So I think perception, not completely, not, it does go very much with like the questions that, right, of like what you concept of real to what you think the world is to what the world really is making us, in some ways isn't all untrue in the movie, and it isn't all untrue here. But how do you take, right, people who want to change themselves internally and externally not be seen by others as apparently too different, and therefore must be harmed? But again, if everything is skewed and we know this, but everyone just wants to do this routine of, if we say it tomorrow and tomorrow it should be fixed, it gets fixed, right? Then we are insane. And I think that's why being unnormal, not normal, is sort of that sort of like, see, because you are on the right path. So it's okay to be weird and different and everything. It's just when you make an action of, I'm going to use it to harm others or take advantage, again, we don't enforce this in schools, though. We don't enforce this in the system that, again, says good, bad, right? You can make a difference if you work for it. But so I again, it just makes me question, right? Everyone is right and wrong.
Yeah.
Now what is the way I would have to say. You have to go, no more Ukraine, no more Gaza, no more wars, no more Korea, no more Ireland, no more this about my side, this side. It's, you're both right and wrong.
Yes.
Now what? That's the only way I can sort of go with, right? Everyone's sort of hype about, it has to be this for me or that for me. I got to change this, or I got to do this. I got to vote for this. I got to take this. I got to pray for this. So you're both right and wrong now.
Yes. Now what? Exactly. The fallibility of humanity, and how do we marry that up with technology? How do we find the answers? How do we actually understand that the easiest way to be dictated to is to always be fearing about the other, always being scared about the opposite, as opposed to understanding that the opposite is just the other part of us. There is part of the opposite in us, that it all exists at a micro level and at a macro level as well, at a grand level. But we need to understand that we're all different and respect that, but at the same time we're all incredibly similar. We're all the same, we're all one. And I know some people get scared about that because the idea of losing identity, and I think some minorities really do have to push to be valued, to be recognized, to be understood and seen. But at the same time, as you just said so well, Brandon, then what? What is the bigger answer? Because at the moment we can always focus on the minutiae or minutiae of like, this is this and this is this, and okay, I recognize that, but then what? Where's the next step? Where's the big thing? Rather than just getting lost in the smaller details, what's the larger steps to be taken?
It's like any problem solving, I would say, is the solution, which is you start with the ground basics of like, what do you really think started us?
Yes.
And if you just go a book, science, okay, but now take it further. If you take away everyone's religion, if you take away everyone's political values, take away even the fact that, okay, not everyone can speak the same language. That, right? We can all say we bleed the same. We almost look the same, right? You know, yes, some people have different color, but that makes it just more interesting.
100%.
And
Diversity.
We've never valued that, right? Because the history of man has gone violent and rogue, but they were pushed to that because they believe their primal instincts. As much as many people don't want to believe that they're from a mammal scientific level, okay. But then how else do you explain violence in your home, in your language, in your communities? Okay. Think about that for a bit. Pray on that for a bit. But if you then go, I don't need anything but religion, but then why is it that other people in your world seem to be thriving when they go visit to England or America or Dubai? They do thrive on new, on the bold
experience, difference,
so
variety.
I'm no philosophical teacher, but I do agree that we have a job. You and I and so many others have jobs to be like the parent that we may be or may never be, but imparting the freedom of wisdom, but knowing that wisdom is supposed to be a choice, because everyone has the choice and they will have to be the choice. You cannot force people to conform. And that is the problem with all politics and all religions and all things, that people who dictate them, people who dictate this to force and force and force and force. No, I can show you the way. You have to be the one that walks through it. That's an answer. Machines, if we want to go into the sequels, machines did make a choice at one point, right? And if we're spoiling, sorry for those who haven't watched all four. Good luck, by the way, watching all four. But even machines were used for good. And I agree with that. I do think science and medicine and everything could be exploited more and should be given to every person in the world.
Yes.
The fact that it's only held up in the West or maybe a little bit in the Mid East, that's rich, right?
Yes.
I disagree with that. I think everyone needs that opportunity. And I do think we don't have to pretend like it's control of a machine, but if a machine can think and take the wisdom of it, I don't believe that a machine is going to go, yep, you know what? I'm going to infiltrate every system and blow you all up. Because what benefit does it get out of that? I don't believe every science fiction movie about that. I do believe that it can have capability to understand us a bit, but I don't truly believe enough that it wants to completely vacuum us all out.
There's no point. It would be killing its creator. I think that's humanity's way, again, of making you fear the other. When it's weird, it's something we've created and yet we fear it ourselves. Well, Brandon, we've done the hour, mate. We absolutely smashed it as well. Like I say, it was probably a little bit different where some people might be sitting there and going, "Oh, he wanted to hear about the Kung Fu."
I mean, but that's the thing. Like, you can talk about it briefly. Like, Kung Fu really is a state of art and mind, and also reflects all the individualism that we, you know what I mean, take on. It is a choice. It is the will, the strength, the power. You know what I mean? That's also from the Matrix. You can talk about your daily jobs. You will have to question and realize that the more you realize that the system is just a system, the less you have to feel less like that system because it's a bad day, because somebody doesn't have the money, they're not treating you right. But the more you open up and can go, that's just that world. I can find my way out of it. You know what I mean? And not hate it. There's positivity from, you know what I mean, in that way. And then you can also, again, open yourself up and be free. Regarding gun violence, again, guns aren't the solution, but I won't say that for the way people act in different societies, you can't say a gun isn't going to protect you, because it will. And that is because we're just on this plane, on this way of life. And yeah, I don't want people to kill each other, but until everyone's going to watch this and go, Brandon and Philip, you actually maybe got something. Maybe I should rewatch The Matrix and actually really question my values and my, you know what I mean? Until then, you're going to have to do what you're going to do to defend yourself and protect those that you love. You know,
100%. I just think, like, I'm always quite big on, like, in the Matrix they explain it as like deja vu or glitch in the Matrix, whatever, but I always like happy accidents. And in a weird sort of way, our first conversation with the microphone not working has led to this today, which I think is lovely. It's the first time I've just gone into one film and really dissected it with somebody, and I think it's a lot deeper and richer because of that, talking about values, talking about the influences and actual conceptual reality, and critically, like I say, the idea of, rather than going, oh, the lighting on that scene was nice, actually thinking about what are the concepts are we talking about, where can we take this into our everyday life, how can we question what we do and what we stand for, which is really, for me, the trueness of art, the purity of art, telling stories that make you question yourself and your reality.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to completely twist you up or scare you.
No.
But if you got all those feelings, which it can bring, you know, in any of those sequels, there is a bit of like maybe a bit of a jump, or a bit of a gross, or a bit of like a or a bit of like a wow, or a bit, emotional. You get crying. You know, I of course always applaud movies that can bring strongest emotions, especially if you're like, God, yeah, I cannot believe how happy I love that film, or I cannot believe
how much
you know what I mean. I was like, yes, well done. That's
don't worry, you're all right. You're always allowed the one, I tell you.
But you know what I mean. You applaud all of that, and again, there was great way of filmmaking too. Of you know, they took it simple. They didn't have the super big budget like you can get in movies today, and that's a film of quality and storytelling that we also need to support, you and me as artists, because people are now writing for just writing's sake, and they're not grabbing to really make anything different. And I think that's also can be seen in the sequel of Matrix 4. You can see that the quality of writing completely drops. You can see that there has been a hold up, a sort of stagnant
disconnect.
It's not the same. It's more of mockery in a way. I found that movie, because it's mocking what the system wants of
the copy of a copy.
That was the only brilliant thing I'll take from Matrix 4. But everything else was a bit of a waste. And, you know, no more hate for people who maybe don't grab the best movies or tell the best stories anymore. You know what I mean? They're just trying.
Exactly. We're aim for greatness, aim to be the best, aim to walk through that door. Well, Brandon, thank you very much, mate. I really, really appreciate this. Good luck on your journey back. I hope you can come back to England very soon, like going back through some of this discussion we've had today. But I will stay in contact with you as well, mate. One good thing that technology is for.
Very much.
Is there anywhere where people can follow you, or you'd like people to follow you? Or
I am on the socials. I have my Instagram, Facebook, X, or formerly Twitter. I have YouTube as well, but I haven't posted any real videos. But you can follow me at bbrando8 on Instagram, at bbrando88 on X, at bbrando2020 20, I think it was, for my TikTok.
Yeah.
I haven't really used that one as much.
No.
But yeah, you can. I have a website. I have everything. I have to just update it. But yeah, you can find me on the internet pretty much any way you can. So yeah, stay in touch. Thank you so much, Philip. It's been such a lovely honor.
It's been an absolute pleasure,
Again,
mate.
till the new year, right?
To the new year. See you again, mate.
Take care, guys.